Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. Well, today we're coming to you again with one of our question and answer videos. You guys have always told us how much you enjoy these. Because our internet isn't very good way out here in the middle of nowhere, we can't really do live stream videos, so our best way to answer your questions directly is by doing these question and answer type videos.
Today we have some fun questions to answer for you guys, and then we also have some exciting news, so make sure you stick around for that. We've got some great things to share with you.
So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. We're going to answer questions that were submitted directly from you guys about some of our recent videos or things that are happening around the homestead.
The first thing we want to talk about is in response to one of our recent videos about us harvesting potatoes. My goodness, you guys had a lot to say about that harvest and about how we grew those potatoes. And so we just wanted an opportunity to talk with you a little bit about why we did what we did and so forth.
Now let's preface by saying that we always enjoy your comments and your feedback. We don't get upset when people tell us that maybe we did something wrong or we should have done something in a different way. But we do want to address some of the questions that we got so that you guys have a better understanding of why we did what we did.
And I hope you guys know already that when we're wrong or don't know what we're doing, we tell you we are wrong and don't know what we're doing. We're not going to pretend that everything that we do is perfect or that we know everything, because we are still learning.
So as far as the potato harvest go, there were two main things that came up over and over and over again, and those are the two that we want to address today. The first is why didn't we hill our potatoes when we planted them? A lot of you suggested that, you know, what we should have done is planted our seed potatoes, and then as the potato plant started to grow, we should have hilled more and more dirt on them, and then we would have gotten a lot more potatoes.
And that would be true if we had chosen a different variety of potatoes to grow. So like tomatoes, potatoes are either determinate or indeterminate.
Now, if you're not familiar with the differences, the main difference between an indeterminate and a determinate potato is that indeterminate potatoes will grow more and more potatoes up the stalk or up the root system if you continue to put more dirt on it. Those varieties are excellent for growing in, tubs or big tall grow bags and things like that.
But the determinate potato varieties, they don't do that. They will grow potatoes just in one layer and really only within about 4 inches of soil. Now the variety that we planted is Kennebec potatoes, and they are a determinate potato, so as much dirt as we would have piled on top of those plants, they would have not produced any more potatoes, just one layer.
And all the research that we did showed that for determinate varieties, which again is what we planted, you don't need a whole lot of soil. The gardens that we used were 6 to 8 inches deep of soil, and that should be plenty for determinate potatoes. So we hope that helps clear up why we didn't hill our potatoes as they grew.
And for those of you who also have raised bed gardens without tons and tons of soil, the determinate potatoes, including the Kennebec, are a perfect option for you.
It may also explain why a lot of people, when they try the grow bags and things, think it's just a terrible method that doesn't work. It could be because you were growing the wrong type of potato in the bag to start with, and it didn't matter what you did, you were only going to get a certain amount of potatoes.
Now, I found a really great article online that talks about the difference between determinate and indeterminate potatoes, along with really great lists of the varieties of each. So we're going to attach the link to that in the video description below here. So check that out if you want to learn more.
The second question that we got a ton about potatoes is, why didn't we wait until the plants completely died, and either it was in the fall or when the first frost came? Why didn't we wait much longer before we harvested the potatoes?
And there are actually a couple reasons behind that. The first reason is, in the previous years when we have dug our potatoes and have waited for those plants to die back, the bugs had already gotten to them and we barely got any of our potato harvest at all.
Right. And that was really the main reason. This year we went off the number of days for the variety that we planted. Kennebec potatoes are 70 to 90 days.
Right.
We actually waited a little longer than that. We're actually at about 95 days when we picked them. And so we didn't want to wait any longer and give more bugs a chance to get them. And I can tell you by looking at them, I think that was a smart decision because there were a few of them that were starting to get some bug spots. And I think if we would have waited much longer, they would have definitely had even more.
Right. And the other reason also has to do with timing, but is also kind of goes back to the determinate versus the indeterminate potato varieties. The determinate varieties are done faster, generally between 70 and 90 days, and the indeterminate have a longer growing season, about 90 to 120 days. So those of you who are used to waiting until fall or waiting until those plants die back, it's very possible that you have been growing the indeterminate potatoes all along, which makes so much sense.
So enough about potatoes. Let's move on to the next question. We've gotten this question a couple times since we did our last video where we talked about our turkey hen being killed by a predator.
Earlier in the spring, we let you know that the turkey hen had started laying eggs and was starting to sit on some of her eggs. Well, we collected a lot of them to put in the incubator, not knowing if she would really sit and hatch all those eggs. But we told you that we also slipped in some duck eggs underneath her to see if she would hatch out some ducklings along with her baby turkeys.
Well, it proved to be a very wise decision for us to have taken her eggs and not just allowed her to sit on them herself, because she didn't sit on them long enough to hatch anything.
No.
And in fact, a lot of the eggs, when she would get up during the day to go out and eat or take a break from sitting on them, a lot of them ended up getting eaten by snakes.
Yeah, and not only did they get eaten by snakes, but she was really inconsistent about when
Right.
she would sit on them.
Yeah,
Sometimes she'd sit on them, you know, overnight, sometimes not. She'd sit on them for a couple hours and then spend the rest of the day out, you know,
Right.
eating and stuff. So
Yeah, so I don't know if it was just a thing with that particular hen or if it's a breed thing that they're not real good brooders. But she definitely would never have hatched out those eggs. In fact, we gave her way longer than she should have had to hatch them out, and the ones that did make it all the way to the end never came close to hatching.
the good news is those that we incubated, we had 9 of them hatch. They are going to be our new flock for this fall.
So I guess what that tells me is in the future, we will be very smart to continue to take the eggs from the turkey and not allow them to just incubate them. You know, I think leaving a few to see if it happens naturally is good, but I think it's a much surer thing to bring them in and do them in the incubator.
Well, the next question has to do with our pigs. It's really a fun question. We are raising Idaho pasture pigs this year. They're so fun. We have 3 that we're raising up for meat for our family for this year, but we also have some breeder pigs, 2 females and a male. They're so fun to have on the homestead, but we've had several questions about what the deal is with their little extra flabs of skin that they have kind of underneath their cheeks. What they're for.
Well, the truth is that is kind of a guarded secret among pig farmers, but we'll let you guys in. This breed of pig that we got is actually a dual purpose dairy pig. So that's actually where you milk the pigs.
No, it's not. It is not. He's joking. Those little skin flaps are called waddles, and some pigs just have those. They're
Right.
just extra flabs of skin.
Right.
They're not, you know, some genetic defect or anything. It's just some pigs have those.
Right. Some breeds have them and some don't. Some goats have them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, some
But
goats do.
they're just for show.
Yeah, so you don't need to worry about them. They're perfectly normal and they're just funny looking.
So we thought that was fun, that you guys wanted to know that. It's just the thing that some pigs have and some pigs don't.
Well, let's turn our attention to rabbits, because we have gotten some questions about rabbits and feeding the rabbits. And because we are raising them not only up in cages off the ground, but also we transition them down to eat grass and pasture. So we've had a lot of questions recently about feeding the rabbits.
So let's start by talking about how much actual rabbit feed, the actual rabbit pellets we give our rabbits each day. So any rabbits that are either pregnant or have babies with them currently get as much as they can eat in a day. We have pretty big feeders on their cages. We make sure that those are filled up every morning, and they typically never run out, but we make sure that every day they have as much as they want in their cages. And honestly, same when they move onto the ground. We make sure that they always have pellets available to them when they're in the rabbit tractors on the ground. Now, any rabbits like our males or females that don't have babies, those we restrict their food a little bit so that they don't get fat.
Right.
Because rabbits really aren't super active, especially the ones that are up in the cages, you need to be very careful, because if they get overweight, they won't breed properly when you need them to breed. So for those, we only give about a half cup of feed per day. And I can tell you from experience that a lot of days they don't even eat all of that, but that's as much as we give them is a half cup per day.
The other question we had revolved around the feeding program is how to transition them from basically 100% pellets to on the grass. And what we like to do is to always have a little bit of fresh grass or fresh plants in the cages, even when they're up off the ground, so that the moms can continue having fresh vegetation, and the babies, as they start experimenting with eating the pellets, they're also experimenting eating the grass, so that the grass and all the fresh vegetation is not new to their system when you put them from mom and wean them and put them on the ground in the rabbit tractors.
Right.
You really don't want to just have a switch from pellets to fresh vegetation. It's a real shock to their system, and they can really have a hard time with that and possibly even die. So a gradual transition, a gradual introduction of all of that fresh vegetation as they're growing up with mom is the best way to prepare them to enter into the rabbit tractors.
And then the last question that we've gotten recently about rabbits is about, do we deworm our rabbits? Do we have much problems with fleas and ticks and things like that because we have them on the ground? I'll start by talking about deworming. We personally do not deworm our rabbits. We've never had a problem with that. None of our rabbits ever get diarrhea. I haven't seen any signs of parasites when I'm processing rabbits, so I feel safe to say that they don't have parasites. Now, there's a reason for that, and it's due to the way that we raise them and the way that we move them on the grass. Because we have quite a bit of room for them, we move our rabbit tractors every single day to a new patch of grass. And we don't move a tractor onto that same piece of grass for at least a month or more after it's moved off. So if there are any parasites in that area, it gives time for that whole cycle to be broken. There's no host for the parasites to get into, and you just keep a much healthier rabbit by continuously moving them to fresh grass.
And when it comes to external parasites like fleas or ticks, we have had no incidents of either of those with any of our rabbits. I'm not sure if it's because they're just so clean that they're cleaning themselves all of the time, but they just have had no ticks and no fleas.
Right. Yeah, which really is amazing, because here in the Ozarks we have a ton of ticks. When I do go rabbit hunting, even I'll find ticks on the wild rabbits. When I deer hunt, the deer around here are just covered in ticks, but we've never found any ticks on our domestic rabbits.
No, we haven't.
So the last thing we have to talk to you guys about today really isn't a Q&A, just some exciting news. For those of you who have been following us for a while, you know that recently we purchased some additional property, and on that property is a small older house. We didn't really have a plan for that house except to use it for friends and family when they wanted to come visit. It's not really big enough for our family, but it would be perfect as a little guest house. You may also remember in the past I've asked for prayers for my dad. My dad is a Vietnam vet. He has some pretty significant health issues due to exposure to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. Well, my parents are currently still living in the Phoenix area where this COVID-19 outbreak is just getting out of control.
So recently we've been talking with them about maybe coming here to stay in the house on our additional property to kind of wait out, hopefully, some of this really crazy time in the Phoenix area with this COVID-19. It has taken some convincing, but they just recently decided that after testing negative, they'll be coming here to stay for at least a few months until things calm down. So that is a huge blessing. We're very excited.
So what really kind of pushed them over the edge to make the decision to come here is that one of their friends recently tested positive for the coronavirus. I think that they kind of thought it would never kind of get into their little circle. So when that happened, they really started to think long and hard about whether or not they should still be in the Phoenix area. So again, they've gone to get tested. Those test results should be back any day. We're assuming that they're going to be negative because they've been very good about staying home through all of this. But as soon as they get those negative results, they'll be on the road to get out here. Once they get here, they are going to stay strictly on the farm for a couple weeks as well, just to make sure that, you know, again, they didn't pick anything up on the drive here. But it's going to be so exciting to have them here.
While there are a few cases that have come up in our county, it's a much lower percentage here than in the Phoenix area. So it will allow them to breathe a little easier and to be close to family, which we absolutely love. And they'll be able to spend more time outside enjoying the fresh air and not have as much to worry about.
It didn't hurt convincing my mom to come during tomato season either. So that she likes tomatoes, I think maybe even more than I do.
Think so.
So that made it a little bit easier when I told her, hey, you can have all the tomatoes that you want once you get here.
And remember in the spring I said, oh, there is just some reason, I just have a feeling in my gut that I need to plant an extra row of tomatoes, a third row of tomatoes. And I said to her the other day, now I know why.
Right.
I had the gut feeling to plant an extra row of tomatoes because you guys are going to come and eat some of them, which is amazing.
Right, yeah, I just think this whole plan has worked out perfectly. Again, if you don't know the whole story about this piece of property that we bought, it wasn't even really for sale. It just kind of came about by talking to a friend about this piece of property that we were able to acquire it. So it just seems like this whole situation has been perfect for them to get out here. The kids are so excited to have Grandma and Grandpa nearby, and we just can't wait for them to arrive.
So if you all will pray for them that they have safe travels and arrive here safely, we would really appreciate that.
We sure do enjoy doing these question and answer sessions. We hope you guys enjoy them too. You know, leave questions in the comment section below for the next time that we do one of these. We do try to do them once a month, maybe once every 6 weeks or so, and we go back and we always look at the questions that were left on the previous videos. So leave your questions for the next one, and we'll try to answer as many as we can.
If you guys are enjoying our channel, please make sure to subscribe. That way you are notified when we put out new videos. And also, the best way to help us here is to share our videos on all your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.